morning, the first level of the day. The alarm goes off, you open your eyes, and what happens next is for you to decide. We either choose the effortless routine we've stuck to for the past years, or we decide it's time for a change. No snoozing, no phones, exercise, cold showers, all things that are difficult to do, but providing you with solid armor for the rest of the day.
Long story short, the morning sets us on one of two paths. We either start our day off with a bang and have one hell of a day, or we lay in bed consuming meaningless content until noon and feel miserable throughout. That last part was needlessly specific because it's me.
And if that's you as well, we need to talk.
When should I wake up? What would the best time be? I've had to ponder over these questions for years, yet I never seem to find the answer. That's because there really isn't one. Now, let's talk about good sleep. What exactly is good sleep? Well, some people like to sleep 8 hours, some people enjoy sleeping 9 hours, and there are some people who like to sleep 7 or 6 hours. It really depends on the person. So I can say for a fact that it's really subjective. But I recently stumbled upon a study that says that consistency of total sleep duration is way better than the total sleep duration in general. What does that exactly mean? If you have one day where you sleep for 10 hours, but then the next day you sleep for 4 or 5 hours, it ruins your rhythm. It's not really healthy for you. It's way better to sleep for 4 to 5 hours consistently than to sleep for 4 or 5 hours for 2 or 3 days and then the next day sleep for 10 hours. There's a saying that to get quality sleep, one needs to sleep exactly 8 hours. Bullshit. When we sleep, our body goes through 90-minute cycles of REM and NREM sleep. Add up a couple of cycles, and where does that 8-hour mark end up? That's right, in the middle of a sleep cycle. Trying to get out of bed at a time like this would be a miserable experience. What I do to avoid that is get my cycles calculated before going to bed and choose whether I want to sleep for 6, 7.5, or 9 hours.
Also, there's this guy. If you have a snoozing problem, he's your best friend. Alarm clocks can be a little bit old-fashioned, but they get the work done much better than phones. Why? Because phones can get you lost in the digital world, and you can spend hours upon hours in your bed, spending time in someone else's life rather than your own. And I prefer to start my day off in my own life. I recently discovered how important it is to get sunlight in the morning. Doing that really helps get your body going. Sunlight triggers the release of hormones like cortisol and dopamine. Cortisol levels rise in the morning and even further after exposure to sunlight. Staying in a darker room will delay that and could make us feel grumpier and more depressed due to the lack of dopamine release. It can also shift your biological clock and ruin your sleep schedule. Since I live in a country with barely any natural sunlight and it's mostly cloudy out there, I've noticed that this effect still takes place, but it takes a while to get going. So even if there is no sun in the sky, go out there. If you wake up while it's still dark outside, try to find a bright LED light to simulate natural light. Once the sun is up, go get some natural light exposure. Simply put, the more sunlight you take in, the more cortisol you have and the more awake you feel.
Enough nerding out, time for action.
Exercise. What a perfect way to start your day off. First of all, it stimulates all of your muscles and gets your body going. Second of all, it makes you drink a lot more water, which is a perfect way to get your body going even more because water wakes you up better than caffeine, believe it or not. To be honest, it does not matter what you choose. You can go jog, you can go to the gym, you can ride a bicycle, it does not matter at all. I, for example, decide to run one day and then the other day I go to the gym to lift. It doesn't matter, just do any kind of sports.
Morning showers, especially the cold ones, usually set us up for productivity and instill motivation in our minds.
I personally had troubles with cold showers at first, but then found a way to make it feel less scary. What I would do is first wash my body with warm water and then slowly turn it colder and colder as I progress. That made it feel good and healthy at the same time.
The two systems in our body that produce adrenaline synchronize because of the shock induced by the cold water, which in turn results in the production of more adrenaline than usual. That, in its own, unites all the systems in our body. Some people prefer to eat breakfast and some don't. It's really that simple. I usually don't eat breakfast and I prefer to leave about a 16-hour gap between my meals, which helps me stay healthier overall and lose more weight.
I, as you can see, do have breakfast almost 90% of the time. The other 10%, I either go for a jog or just do any kind of cardio-related work. When I'm doing bodybuilding, I try to eat as much protein as possible. Not that I'm a great bodybuilder or anything. I do have protein, but I try to dodge carbohydrates because they can make me feel more tired throughout the day. So proteins it is. But yeah, it's just that simple. It's either you eat or you don't. That's it. Everyone knows that caffeine is a useful tool that helps us feel more awake. But there's a catch. Consuming coffee the first 60 to 90 minutes of you waking up blocks huge quantities of the hormone called adenosine. The greater the amount of that chemical in our body is, the more tired we feel. Adenosine is really high at the time we wake up, and caffeine prevents its decay, thus resulting in an afternoon crash.
A rule that I've stuck to for a very long time and has proven itself very useful is not taking any amount of coffee during your morning routine and instead taking it as a reward just before work.
Also, there's 3 things in the morning that wake up my mind. Number 1 is being thankful for at least 3 things that have happened either in the day before or that have just been there all the time. That just makes me feel more appreciative of the world around me. Number 2 is generate at least 3 ideas every morning. Creativity, like almost everything else in our body, is like a muscle and it can get trained as long as you keep repeating the stuff. So yeah, 3 ideas, no matter if they're bad or if you're never gonna look at them again, just do it to train your muscles. Meditation, that's the 3rd one, and it's probably the most important one out of all of them. It allows you to reflect on your life, which is crucial for everyone. It makes me personally feel at peace with myself. And there are 5 pillars that I've discovered: peace, concentration, passion, love, and power. That's what meditation gives me. I don't know if that's what it'll give you, but I hope you manage to find something similar to that.
Rule number 1 of my morning routine: stay away from social media for as long as you possibly can in the morning. The days I use social media as I wake up feel way more unpleasant and unfulfilling.
Now, let me explain. There's this psychological thing called dopamine baseline, which fluctuates based on the things we do. We all start at the same level, but if we succumb to pleasure, we get small bursts of dopamine, followed by a drastic drop in the baseline. Contrary to that, if you choose to do difficult activities, the exact opposite happens, and at the end of the day, number 1, you feel happier. Number 2, your dopamine levels are naturally higher. And number 3, you don't feel the need to get those small dopamine boosts. That's the baseline of it. Obviously, there is a ton more to talk about here, but that is a topic for another day.
Let's talk success. After researching what some of the most successful people do during the morning, I arrived at a couple of conclusions. Firstly, some of them don't have breakfast. Now, for them it's not about trying to lose weight or fasting. No, nothing like that. For them, a meal is a reward. And they feel like they shouldn't reward themselves if they haven't done anything to start the day off. Next up, we have exercise. Most of them have to exercise in the morning because throughout the day they're usually busy staying in the office, having to work on their business, and they become inactive. Exercise is a great way to keep themselves active. Social media. Now, since we've already talked about how bad social media can be in the morning, I won't get too deep into that topic. All I can say is, most successful people agree with this. Most of them tend to stay away from social media during the morning as much as possible. Frankly, the only time they would ever use social media during the morning if it's something that concerns them or if it's something about their business in general. Last but not least, we have a good sleep. Most of them try to keep a consistent sleep schedule as it helps them be more productive throughout the day. And I really suggest you do that too. With that being said, you shouldn't exactly copy what the successful people are doing in the morning, but you should instead use the things I've said as building blocks to craft your perfect morning routine.
And that's it. Level complete. With that being said, a perfect morning routine is not the goal that each and every one of us is chasing. It's simply a tool that acts as a cornerstone to achieve it. A good morning routine shouldn't drain you. It should instead armor you up for the rest of the day. While trying to envision my perfect morning routine, I reached a simple yet powerful conclusion. Don't strive for perfection, strive for happiness.